Welcome into Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. Coming up on today's show in just a few moments, we will get you the latest in regards to Earl Thomas as he wants to make a return to the National Football League. Also, an update on Duane Brown, if he will be back in Seattle this season, and the schedule. We know when it will be released. We'll tell you about that, as well as a look at the 2022 opponents for the Seahawks. All that and more in just a few moments from right now. But before we do that, I want to know, guys, where are you watching Seahawks Today from? Here's your chance to sound off. I know we got a lot of fans in Seattle, but maybe you're overseas, or maybe you're like me and you're hanging out here in Dallas, Texas, whatever it may be. We want you to tell us where you're watching the show. We appreciate all our loyal followers and watchers of this show for being a part of what we do each and every day. You got to make sure you're subscribed to the channel wherever you're at and see our daily Seahawk updates here on Seahawks Today. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV is the place where you can find us. And tell us in the comment section where you're watching today's show. Right off the top, early this morning, before 6 a.m. Pacific time, Adam Schefter of ESPN tweeted out former seven-time Pro Bowl safety Earl Thomas, who last played for Baltimore in 2019, who turns 33 in May, said today that he wants to resume his NFL career this season. "I'm ready," Thomas texted Schefter. "I'm in shape. My timing is on point. I'm so proud of that." Now, Earl Thomas, an old friend, a Seahawks legend. Let's catch you up to speed on Thomas. He, of course, is a Super Bowl champion, part of that Legion of Doom there in Seattle years ago, a three-time first-team All-Pro player with the Seahawks. Hasn't played in the league since 2019, and when he last played in the NFL, it was for the Baltimore Ravens, and he had a Pro Bowl season there in Baltimore, but then was caught after punching his own teammates. So not the best background when it comes to Earl Thomas of the off-the-field situation. You might want to Google something about him and his brother. I'll let you figure that out. But it's not a great track record off the field, but the numbers on the field speaks for itself. Now, I'll say this. We've seen guys, other than Colin Kaepernick, get a chance to come back for one more go at it, right? And knowing that the last time we saw Earl Thomas, although it was all the way back in 2019, he looked pretty good. I think that Earl Thomas is going to get one more shot in the NFL. I don't think it's going to be in Seattle. He and Pete Carroll have some bad history and such, but I do think there's a chance we see Earl Thomas in the National Football League once again. And you can see from 2019, the numbers were really good that season, with close to 50 tackles and 2 interceptions. So what do you guys think? Earl Thomas, is he going to play in the NFL this season? Let us know. Here's your chance to sound off. You can type Y for yes, N for no, if we see Earl Thomas make a comeback to the National Football League in 2022. You're going to get an ad break here in just a moment. And while that ad is playing, go ahead and get your votes in. And we'll be back with more here in just a second. Type Y for yes, N for no, if you think Earl Thomas will play in the NFL this season. Duane Brown, he's been with the Seahawks since 2017 and is currently an unrestricted free agent. Now, the thought for a while has been that Brown will come back to Seattle this season, but no deal is in place just yet. Pete Carroll talked about it this week, saying we have not moved on from that, on the idea of bringing back Brown. We're still talking. Brown was traded to Seattle back in 2017, and he said earlier this offseason, back in January, that he would come back to Seattle even on a one-year contract. So something to keep in mind there. You look at this Seahawks offensive line right now, not great. And last year they struggled. As you can see, it's not pretty for this Seahawks team at this point in time when you look at that offensive line. They're certainly going to hit the draft next week and draft some offensive linemen. And I'll say this much. I think that we are going to see Duane Brown back in Seattle in 2022 when it's all said and done. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't be spending a high pick on a tackle. I think what you could see happen is Duane Brown starts initially, and then they try handing the job over to a younger player, whether they draft a guy like Evan Neal or Charles Cross, whoever it may be. I think Duane Brown is back for one more try at it in Seattle, but I would be surprised if he plays more than a year in Seattle at this point going forward. He's had a pretty decent career, but he's coming off the worst season of his entire career at this point, giving up 8 sacks last year. Draft night coming up here on Chat Sports. We will have it all covered Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All 3 days, all 7 rounds, live on YouTube as well as Rumble. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV, where you can see it all. Tom Downey and the entire gang going to break down every single pick in the draft. You don't have to worry about sitting through those long and boring interviews that you see on the traditional TV coverage. You'll get a breakdown of every player right here on our main channel. That's youtube.com/ChatSportsTV for all 3 days of the NFL Draft. The NFL schedule release will take place on May 12th, and that includes the Seattle Seahawks. We already know who the Seahawks opponents will be, and we'll get to that here in just a moment, but here's some key dates to keep in mind for the schedule release. On April 28th, during the draft, we're going to find out what the first ever Thursday night football game on Prime Video will be, and that is going to be a Week 2 contest. NBC gets the opening night Thursday game involving the Super Bowl champion, and then the first Prime Video exclusive will be the week after. Then, on May 4th, we will know the international games, and then on May 9th, we'll get a few select games, some marquee games, and then by May 2nd, by May 12th, the NFL teams themselves will all get to announce their first home game. And for the Seahawks, they'll get to announce that at 4 p.m. Pacific time on May 12th. Now, we'll go through the opponents here in just a moment, but I want to know from you guys, what game are you most excited about in 2022? There's one in particular that comes to mind. Might involve a familiar name, Russell Wilson. You may have heard of him. That, to me, is going to be the most intriguing game for 2022. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments of what game you are most excited for the Seahawks in 2022. You're getting an ad break here in just a second. While that ad's playing, get your votes in, and we'll be back with more here in a second. So, of course, you play your divisional opponents, Cardinals, Rams, 49ers, just like you do every single year, home and away. The Seahawks will do that. That doesn't change. But here are the home opponents beyond the divisional teams. This year, the Seahawks will play the NFC South, as you can see, with a couple teams there with the Falcons and the Panthers. And they will also take on the Broncos, the Raiders, the Giants, and the Jets out of the AFC West, and, of course, the Giants in the NFC East there. Those games, those are 6 home games we're talking about, in addition to those 3 other divisional games. You're talking about 9 home games for the Seahawks in 2022. The road opponents, here's how they stack up. You get the Detroit Lions. You also have the Kansas City Chiefs coming into town, as well as the Los Angeles Chargers, the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. We mentioned with those road opponents there in the division. Wanted to kind of show you that again one more time to emphasize the Super Bowl champs coming into town, as well as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers making their way, who won the Super Bowl, of course, the year previously. So that's how things stack up for the Seahawks with their schedule this year. And I got to say, that game for me that stands out without question is Russell Wilson's return to Seattle. That is going to be a fun night. I hope that he's not hurt or something like that by that point. And I know that it wasn't a pretty ending for Russell Wilson in Seattle, but considering that he did win a Super Bowl and was the face of this franchise for quite some time, I think it's going to be a friendly homecoming for Russell Wilson when he comes back. But that will be the game that Seahawk fans want to win more than any other game in 2022, is when Russell Wilson comes back to town later on this season. We'll have coverage for you of those dates of when those games are announced on May 12th. You can follow along right here on Chat Sports.